So once again, now that we come back from class, we're going to be looking at chapter 4, which is going to be managing expenses. So in this case, I'm only going to show you the very first couple pages of chapter 4, just because chapter 4 is a pretty lengthy chapter. It is supposedly a lot of material, so I do, from past experience, have split this up into 3 different sections. So obviously 3 different sections, meaning 1 hour and approximately an hour per session. So in this case, we're gonna do learning the first part of chapter 4. Okay, so as I have mentioned before, we are gonna practice how to open up a portable file again. Okay, so again, in this case, chapter 4 says that we need to open up expenses 21 QBM. Okay, it says QBW. And again, the password is always going to be given, which is Questiva21. So let's go ahead and take a look at what my previous one was. So in this case, how do I close this out? You don't need to close the program. All you simply need to do is go to File and click Close Company. Okay? When you close your company, as you saw those windows, they were saving and closing at the same time. Okay? Then you're going to get back to this screen right here. This is, again, your main screen that you're always going to be looking at when either creating or opening a portable file. First thing you got to do here is you have to click Open or Restore a File, an already existing company file. Here you have 3 choices. You're either going to open a current working data file, a backup file, or a portable file, right? So in this case, I am since all the portable files that I downloaded were all portable files, right? Everything that you're going to be using here and you're going to be exercising is going to be practicing opening up a portable file. So in this case, I'm going to select the third option and I'm going to go ahead and click Next. Now, when I click Next, it's going to ask you to find where you have your portable files. So in this case, you can start off at your desktop. You could start off anywhere as long as you know where you put your portable files, okay? So in this case, I already placed mine in my documents, okay? It's under the class that we are in, okay? QuickBooks class, right? Under QuickBooks portable files. So again, you guys have to create your own folder for this. If you created one on the desktop, great. Then that's the greatest place to go, is to go to your desktop, locate your student portable file. So it should say Final 2021 Classroom Files. That is standard throughout every time anybody downloads those portable files, okay? This is the folder it comes in. All right, so in this case, when I click on Final 21 Classroom Files, okay, I'm going to locate my file. So in this case, I need to be opening Expenses 21. So it's in alphabetical order. So Expenses 21. Here it is, okay? You can either double click on it or you can click Open, whichever choice you have, right? I'm going to double click on it. Once you double click on it, now it's going to ask you, where do you want to save this file so it can open up and create a new working data file for you. In this case, all right, I'm going to go ahead and click this next button, which is going to search for a folder I want to save my working data file in. So in this case, like I've mentioned many times before, rule of thumb is it's going to automatically try and save it to your local C drive. If you're not the owner of the computer, you will not have access to this. But if you are, then it will pop up a message saying you need to have access from the admin to have access to save this file on the local C drive. In this case, I don't want you to do any of that just because it's a hassle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to locate a folder that I've created to save this file. Now, whether you saved it on your desktop, save it anywhere, you're going to locate that folder. So in this case, my folder is also in my documents, okay? Under the school, under accounting, which is also under QuickBooks, right? I've created this folder. This is my pathway. And I'm going to save it in the same folder as my portable files. However, I've already created a folder for just this class, okay? Yes, you can save it in the actual classroom files if you would like. It's your choice. Nothing's going to be wrong with that because your portable files and your working data files are two separate files. They have nothing to do with each other, okay? So in this case, you could save it in the same folder if you like. But I do recommend you to create a folder so that when you are done with this class, you can delete that folder and start all over again because the portable files can be reused over and over and over and over again. However, if you already have a creating existing working data file, that's where it will stop you. Okay. So here, I've already created a folder for the AM QuickBooks January 31st. Here, when I double click on that folder, it shows me all the files I've already created for this class, and I can go ahead and click Save. Okay. Once I click Save, it's going to show me this window where you see this green bar, and that's going to show me that it is creating the working data file and opening and expanding the file and the contents in it. Right? Once again, depending on how fast your computer is, so we're talking about random access memory as well as your internet. If your internet's not really good, it will take some time. Okay? So once you've done that, okay, the first thing it's going to pop up is going to be entering your password, okay? So as we've mentioned before, right, password is given on every single chapter, and it's given within the first part of the chapter, always in that same exact box, okay? So in this case, it's Questiva, so make sure it will recognize if you have cap locks on. So right now, I have cap locks on, and if I were to type something in here, it will give me a message saying you have cap locks on. But I'm going to go ahead and take off my cap locks, okay? And it is capital QUESTIVA 21. All right? You can choose enter, you can choose okay. And then once it's gone through that, you're going to get this message saying would you like to update this file? Always best rule of recommendation, always update your file. Okay, because there could be a problem where you're trying to do something specific or feature on there, and because you didn't update it, it won't work for you. Okay, so there you go. And once I've waited a few minutes, another pop-up will say QuickBooks has successfully opened up your file. Okay, and then everything there will be okay. Okay. So there's my pop-up. QuickBooks has successfully opened up your file. Click OK. Here's my home page. The accountant's version is going to have the accountant's center. Okay. And that's how you open up a file. Okay. All right. So in chapter 4, okay, we are primarily going to be focusing on entering bills. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on the vendor section. We will talk about inventory in chapter 8, so this part you can ignore, but for sure we are going to be looking at entering a bills, paying the bills, using a check, so the bank account, using a credit card, and so on and so forth. So that's our main criteria that we're focusing on, is going to be this vendor section of your home page as well as your banking account. Okay, Now, if we understand this graphic depiction right here, right, we're going to enter in a bill, and then we're going to follow this line, and we're going to pay the bill. Okay? Now, that's only if you receive a bill. So this is considered an accounts payable when you owe money to other people. But if you're just going to pay at time of service, so pay right then and there, that's where your checking area is going to be, right? We're going to be looking at how to use a check register for the first time. We're going to take a look at how we can use the write a checks function, right? And that is pretty much it, and how to use a credit card, okay? But let's go ahead and go through the standard procedures of introducing what vendors are, okay? So that's the very first thing, and what expenses do. So, as we've mentioned before, expenses are going to be things that are required of you to either spend, to either use, or to get rid of, okay? Things that you have to use in order to operate your business, okay? So once again, if you need to get some fixtures done in your lights in your store, that is a service that you need in order to operate your store, right? You need lights to operate your store. If you need to purchase inventory, that is also going to be considered an expense to you because you need to buy inventory in order to sell it, right? That's your main core of operations, right? You need to pay for rent, right? In order for you to keep your building, right? Those are all examples of what we're going to be taking a look at in today, except for inventory. Inventory will be chapter 8, okay? So we talked about what vendors do. Vendors are the people who provide those services and goods to you. So they could be a supplier, they could be a service provider. So if you need to connect to them to get some internet for your store, that's the person you're going to be talking to. And then third but not last but not least is going to be 1099 contractors. Those are people that you contract to provide services for you to do the job for you. Okay? So 1099 workers are also going to be considered your vendors. So suppliers, service providers, anything that you can think of that is in terms of helping you to operate your core business is going to be a vendor. Okay? So let's take a look at the vendor center, okay? The vendor center, there are 3 ways you can get to the vendor center. 3 and 3 only. One on the home page right here. If you can see this tab right here, it says vendors in this blue tab. You can click on that. It will take you straight to the vendor center. It even gives you a little message saying, go to vendor center, okay? Right here on the left side, by default, on your icon bar, you have the vendor center here as well, right? It's going to be vendors. If you click on this, it will take you to the vendor center. So by default, icon bar is a recommended way to go, okay? And then last but not least, if you go up to the vendors menu, the very first thing that you have up there is your vendor center, okay? 3 ways to get into the vendor center: homepage, menu bar, and icon bar, okay? The 3 main ways to navigate QuickBooks. So I'm just going to go ahead and go use the easiest one, which is straightforward on my homepage, okay? As we take a look at an example of our vendor center, as you can see, it gives us a pretty good extensive overview of my vendors, okay? Right here on the left, you have a list of every single vendor that is in the company, including their account balances. So right now, you only owe the State Board of Equalization for tax for $99.33, and you also owe Wong and Son, right, $142, okay? So that's just looking an overview of the particular people that are the vendors and their account balances. Okay, so that's just the active list. Okay, up here at the very top, you can toggle the list to see who and what people that are involved in your company. You could show all people, you could show inactive people, you could show just active people. You could even have them categorized by specifics. Like I told you, there's vendor types. If they fall in those categories, then you can choose those ones. But yes, this one is where you can view at the top of here, you can view your vendors list, okay? You can even organize it by name. Now, usually, as you can see here, it is chronologically alphabetically in order by name, okay? And anybody that's either an independent contractor, they are last name, comma, first name, okay? So, for example, we have Rodriguez, okay, I guess we're going to type in our very first one today. So usually it should be in alphabetical order. Most likely you would order it by last name first, right? So in this case, that is the list here. Now, if I click on a profile, if I click on a person in my list, on the right side, it's going to show me a quick overview of my person, right? Their contact information, the name, the phone number, the address, etc., etc. Okay? And down below is going to list out all the transactions that you have between you and this person. Okay? Now, in this case, you do need to toggle this. So, for example, I owe $142, but when I click on my transaction, it says that I have nothing available. You do need to toggle some of these. So this says right here, this fiscal year. So in this case, I will click all. And here it pops up that I received a bill for the $142. Okay. And of course, looking at this, you can do way much more. You can add a few things, such as you can even paperclip if you have business cards, okay, or even contracts. You can go ahead and attach documents to this particular person. So if this person had a business card, I would go ahead and put that in here under the paperclip. I can edit this profile at any given time with this little pencil icon, okay? And then up here at the very top, you have two folders, right? You have the vendors and then you have transactions. This is where if you need to find or locate a transaction, you can find it by looking at the specific transaction you did. So was it a bill? Was it a bill payment? Was it a credit? Okay, so in this case, you would have all the information here. But primarily, we would use the vendor center to just look at the overview of the vendor, of the people that you do business with. Okay. And then again, at the very, very top of this window, you have your sections to enter in your transactions, okay? So here you got new vendors. If you drop down that menu, you can either enter in a vendor or you can enter multiple vendors at one time, okay? You have new transactions, which if I drop down this menu, I can choose to enter a bill, pay a bill, purchase, send a purchase order, receive items, okay? And you can even print them out. So that's cool too. And you can even export it to Excel. And of course, one thing I do want to talk about is the bill tracker. But we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, okay? So that's the vendor center for you, okay? Now again, you do have the option to go ahead and enter in multiple vendors at one time. So I just clicked on add multiple vendors at one time. And yes, you can choose to import an Excel file if you choose to do so, okay? Now, how do I do that? I am not going to spend the time to do that just because in this case, that is definitely not something I am going to teach you on, okay? But it is definitely something that is going to be more advanced levels of QuickBooks because once again, the purpose of you being able to use QuickBooks is to maximize efficiency. In this case, again, that is something that is very, very, that information is definitely for more advanced levels of QuickBooks. But I'm going to at least show you this one, okay? I'm going to show you how to be able to enter in a vendor one at a time. So let's go ahead and click on that. This is the only way you can enter in a vendor. You cannot do it on your menu bar, right? If you go to vendors on your menu bar, there is no way that you can enter in a new vendor. Okay? You can't do it on the icon bar because once again, you can't do transactions in the icon bar, and your homepage definitely does not have a place for you to enter in a vendor. However, all three areas take you to one place, and that is the vendor center. Once you're in the vendor center, then you can go ahead and add a vendor. Okay? So new vendor. I can go do that at the top of the menu, or I can simply right click anywhere on my vendor center, so the list of my vendors, and I can add a new vendor at any given time. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on add new vendor, and now we're going to go ahead and enter in and fill in the information. Okay? So this is straightforward. It's in your book. Okay? But I also have the page so we can go ahead and do this. So let's take a look at the very top part here. So we have the top part is going to be your vendor name. This is going to be separate from this name right here. You do have an option to choose. You can type it in here if you would like. This right here is what's going to display on your list. But if you don't necessarily have to have that if you do not want to. Okay? You can skip this part because it will automatically fill in for you. Okay? The next section says that what is this person's account balance? You do not ever need to fill any account balances in this whatsoever. This one rule of thumb is you never enter anything in here. The best rule of thumb is if you do have an account balance with this person, you have to retroactively put in that bill from that previous time to create the account balance. Okay, so in this case, you do not need to touch this area. Okay, so first thing that we're going to take a look at is company name. Okay, company name is going to be Boswell Consulting. So Boswell Consulting. Okay, or I think the consultants. Okay, or it doesn't matter. It's just the name. Now, who is going to be Boswell Consulting? I think it's consulting. Okay, consulting. It's going to be Mr. Okay. Stephen is his first name. And Boswell is his last name. Okay. Now notice this. When I typed in Stephen Boswell, what do you notice here? This section has been filled with his company name, Boswell Consulting. You can choose to keep it, but if not, then you can change it at any given time. It doesn't really matter. But in this case, I don't need to fill in this section because it can automatically do it for me. And notice this. When I entered Boswell Consulting and I entered in Mr. Stephen Boswell, it also started to fill out the bottom section, which is my billing and shipping address. Okay? So in this case, it's, QuickBooks is, the purpose of QuickBooks is to make it much more easier for you to file and to enter in transactions much more quickly. Okay? 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 So once you've done that, then the next one is job title. Well, he's the owner of Boswell Consulting. Okay. Does he have a main phone number? Well, let's take a look. In this case, his main phone number is going to be 510-555-0305 is his main phone number, and he does not have a fax phone number. Oh, actually, no, he has a work phone number. So that was his mobile main phone number. So his work phone number is also 510-555-3500. Okay? Does he have a main email? Yes, he does. It is going to be Steve, okay, at boswellrightnow.us. Okay? So Steve at boswellrightnow.us. Okay? So Steve at boswellrightnow.us. Okay? And then now he doesn't have a mobile phone number or a fax number. Okay, again, if you have this extra information, then go ahead and put it in. His website is going to be www.boswellrightnow.us. Okay? So now we need to fill in the actual address for the billing address. Okay? Billing address, he wants us to send it to his postal office box, so P.O. box, okay, P.O. box number, let's see, P.O. box number 620, okay, in Oakland, California. So Oakland, California. Zip code is going to be Oakland, California 94610. Okay, and that is it for his address. Okay, so in this case, right, that is his address. Now the question is here. It's gonna say, what is his shipping address? You can choose this copy right here. You don't actually have to physically copy and paste it over here. If you click on this copy button, right, it's going to say, is his billing the same as his shipping address? So we're going to just double confirm, is this what it is? Now, if I don't want to send it to Boswell Consulting itself, maybe it's just to him, then I can take out Boswell Consulting right here and say, well, it's just going to go straight to Steve because he's the owner of this company. Or if I don't want Steve, right, and I just want only the company name, right, I can just have Boswell Consulting, right, and I can click OK. So when I do that, it's just going to transfer what I wanted on there. Now you can also edit the information on here as well. No restrictions are here. And you can edit the information. So if I want to edit this, I can edit it with this pencil. Okay? So that's that section here. Now on the left side right here, in these columns right here, are going to be information that you should fill out for each vendor. Now, is it necessary to do this? Let's say I go to my local Stater, no, I know there's no Stater Brothers here. I go to my local Albertsons. Do I need to have any other information except for just the address and the phone number? Do I need to know who owns Albertsons? No, I don't. So in this case, the only thing I should have is at least the address. So then when I do my taxes or whatever I do, right, at least I have proof of the transaction, right, because I actually purchased something from this Albertsons. But is it necessary that I fill in any additional information about Albertsons? Do I need to put any payment information for Albertsons? No. You don't. It's just for extra information. The more information that you have about a particular person, the much more quicker and easier it is to fill out your forms and things like that. So in this case, I don't need it, okay? Or in this case, I just finished the first section. So because Boswell Consulting is one of the people that I seek advice from, then yes, I should fill out as much information as necessary to make sure that this person is for surely like someone that I use very often and I have the most information in detail about. Right? So let's talk about the next section, which is payment settings. Payment settings is going to be how you pay Mr. Steven, right? Because this is a vendor. Now in this case, right, it's asking me for an account number. This account number is the account that Steve gave to me. This is my account number, not his account number. Okay, so this is the account number. Okay, if it's given to you, it's given to you. So again, usually it should be stated on your bill. So when you receive your bill, you should have all this information, including the account number that it belongs to. So in this case, the account number is 66-112. Okay, here Mr. Boswell can also give you terms. Okay, so we mentioned that, right? The terms that Mr. Boswell gave me is 2% 10 net 30. Okay, so that means when Mr. Boswell sends me a bill, I can take advantage of a discount by paying within 10 days. And that's the terms that he's given me. Now, is it necessary that he will always give me terms? It can fluctuate, and yes, you can change it on the actual sales form or bill form yourself. But in this case, I just put it on there because that's what the agreement terms were. He's going to always give me an opportunity to take a discount. Now over here, credit limit. So on my account with Mr. Boswell, do I have a credit limit? In this case, no. But when you do have customers, right, especially if they apply for your store credit card or for an account number, there is a credit limit, right? And you can put that in there. And then do I have a billing rate level? So again, in this case, there's none. So again, billing rate level is when vendors bill me a certain percentage, okay? Okay. And then last but not least, if I choose to pay them using a check, is it going to be to Boswell Consulting? Consulting. Did I not? No, I didn't change it. To Boswell Consultants. Okay? Perfect. Next one is going to be tax settings. Now, in this case, right, this is only optional for purposes of a 1099. Okay? This one is also for purposes for yourself. When you do seek this expense, right, you do need to make note that this could be a tax exemption to the company, right? Spending this certain percentage of money, going through taxes. I'm not a tax person, so I don't know the full lengths of the taxes, but you could possibly write this expense off for your business, okay? But that's only given to the circumstances if you choose to. Now, this person is telling me that this Boswell consultant, Steven, he's an independent contractor. He's a third-party vendor. He's not a legitimate company, okay? If he was a legitimate company, he would give me his company tax ID so then we can, match our expenses and our revenues, right? But in this case, he's an independent contractor. So he gave me his social security number, right? Which is going to be 123-12-1234. Okay? Now, because Steven is claiming himself as an independent contractor, because he's an independent contractor, we are obligated to have to fill out for him a 1098 and a 1090 form for him at the end of the year because he contracted with me to do services for me. Now, this is for also legal obligations as well, because this, if I, by me putting it on here and filing it, this will also determine whether he is truly an independent contractor or not. Because if he is not an independent contractor and he's trying to write this off as a personal expense, the IRS will be going after him for sure. So this is to also test to make sure that this vendor is eligible to be a 1099. And that's what he claimed himself to be. Okay? Now again, is it necessary? No. If it's a company, they can give us your employee identification number instead. Okay? And then now the next one is going to be account settings. So every time I use Boswell Consultants, I can automatically have specific accounts go directly towards him. Okay, what do you mean by that? So when we talked about the accounts, right? What category or what account does he fall under? If I use this person as an expense, right? In this case, he's going to be falling under the category of a professional fee. Okay, because we are seeking him for professional advice. So his services to me is going to be a professional fee expense. Okay, so in this case, I put professional fee, so that's an expense to me. So that means every time I use Boswell Consultant, it's going to automatically fill in my bill that, oh, you must have seek professional expenses. So again, the more information you fill in about a particular person or a particular event or something like that, QuickBooks will recognize it and will start filling the information for you a lot quicker. Okay. So there you go. He's professional fees. Okay. Last section that we have here is going to be additional information. So, does he belong to some kind of vendor type? Well, he is a consultant, right? So again, vendor types can break down your vendors into specific criteria. So again, here's some examples. Are they a supplier? Do they supply us inventory or just supply us in general with materials that we need to operate the business? Then we'll put him as a supplier. Is he a tax agency? Is he the one that we consult for filing our taxes? Is he going to be something that is that requires utilities, right? So your landlord is going to be something that has to deal with utilities, right? You have to pay and contact them to, for the water bill, for everything else, right? So those are typical vendor types. Do you need to have them? You do not. You're absolutely not obligated to have them. It's just another way to organize your thoughts and ideas even further. So in this case, I'm extending my further categorization of my vendors to fit under one of these types. So in this case, we use him for consulting. So he's going to be a consultant. Okay. And then the last section right here, which is going to be custom fields, is the last section I was talking about in Chapter 7. Chapter 7 was revealing about custom fields. Now, the great thing about custom fields is it is where you can create your own specific fields to enter in any extra information. Now, the one that they primarily show you is going to be using for any vendor, any employee, any customer, okay? Now, what are these custom fields? These custom fields are definitely going to be very useful, especially if you use it to build your relationship with these individuals, okay? So what are these information that I can create or find out about, okay? So how do I enter it? So my first one is I have county under there. What if I want to add something else in there? I just go down here to define fields, and then here I can create the fields that I want to have on there. So notice this, right? Here's the rule of thumb. You can only create 15 total custom fields. So as you can see this list right here, you cannot go beyond the 15 list. Okay, you can only have 15 items and that is it. Each person can hold up to 7 custom fields. Hold on. That doesn't make any sense. 7 plus 7 plus 7 is 21. How's that possible? And this is where you have to understand. One custom field can be applied to multiple people. So if I create a custom field, I can say this works for my customer and my vendor. That doesn't mean you need to create 7 separate ones for each group of people. Because then at the end of the day, it will not work out because that's 21 custom fields. And you can't do that because you only have 15. So in this case, right, out of the 15, you can choose 7 of them to use for each person. So customer, vendor, or employee. So let's take a look at an example here, right? Spouse's name. Spouse's name can apply to a customer. It can definitely apply to a vendor. Okay? Right? Especially when you're customers, right? The best way to do when you're using a type of, building relationships, right? The best way is to always ask them about their personal lives. It is a great business tactic to want to be involved into your customers' lives because if the customer feels that you know something personal about them, they will feel more inclined to want to give business to you. And that is a true fact. Think of anybody that you can think about. If you could be like, hey, you, like your name, how is your wife doing? And they'll be like, oh my gosh, you know about my life. You make me feel special. What can I do for you? Okay? And that's the purpose of having custom fields is to build your relationships and to have those conversation starters. Because the more better you build your relationship, the more likely those customers or your vendors are going to want to give you special benefits. Okay? So again, that is a business tactic. It is, on my end, that does sound wrong that you're using this program to kind of get information to try to sell your product, but that's the goal of business, right? You're not trying to be friends with the customer. You're trying to get them to buy your product, okay? But but in order to do that and to guarantee that they will get to give you service is to be personal with them. Get personal with them. Know them. Make them feel special. Okay? So there you go. If I know something about my spouses for my customers, great. It's not just only employees, right? That's the best way to build an employee relationship is, oh, how is your wife doing? Oh, yeah, she's doing great. Then the employer feels like, wow, my employer notices me. I'm not working at a dead-end job because they care about me, all right? So there you go. And that can be definitely applied for a vendor too, right? Conversational starters, right? You can even go as far as putting hobbies in here, right? I would like to know my hobbies for my customers, my vendors, and my employees because that will definitely spark a conversation, right? But let's go also ahead and do a little one that's personal to just vendors only. I'm going to go ahead and do a business establishment date. Right? Because the great thing about having a business establishment date is that when these businesses, right, when they have a grand opening or when they have like a 10-year anniversary, right, they're going to be wanting to invite everybody they know, including their good customers. So if Stephen Boswell, right, or if you, right, knew something about the company, right, You knew that they opened up on this particular day. That was a grand opening, right? And you knew that their anniversary is coming up. Send them a package. That will make the vendor even more wanting to give you more discounts on the services. You know what I mean? So in this case, that should be enough, right? And I'm going to click OK. So what you're going to notice is now my custom fields has expanded. So county is going to be Alameda, Alameda, I think so. All right, that's the county that they're doing services in. Okay. What is the spouse's name? I don't know. Let's name her Linda Boswell, right? Steve and Linda Boswell. Okay. All right. What kind of hobbies does Steven do? Maybe he likes to go fishing. Okay. If he likes to go fishing, you can talk about fishing all day, right? And then be like, hey, you want to go out and go fishing? And then do some more bonding relationships, right? And then he can invite you to all of these, all of that, etc., okay? And then, of course, business establishment date. I'm going to say he was established as of May 25th of 2028, okay? So he's way almost past his 20 years now, right? Almost 20 years, okay? There you go. So that's what custom fields do. Custom fields is a way to add any extra information. You can only find custom fields under additional information, whether it's a vendor profile, customer profile, or employee profile. You won't be able to find custom fields anywhere else. Okay? Rule of thumb, you can make the maximum total of 15. Each person can have up to 7 custom fields out of the 15, okay? And one custom field can go for multiple people, okay? And now that we reach the end of my profile, I can go ahead and click OK. And there you go. I have Boswell Consultant, okay? Right here, the information here, transaction down below, all right? Any questions in regards to entering a vendor? No? No questions into entering vendors?
No, not for me.
Okay. All right. So let me see what the next couple sections are. Okay. We talked about setting up a vendor. So again, the more information that you have about a vendor, the better and much more easier and quicker it is to enter in a transaction, okay? Now, watch this, okay? If for any reason, so I entered in Boswell Consulting, right? So that means the next time I enter in a transaction, so let's do an example real quick, okay? If I enter in a bill, right, watch this. If I type in BOS, right, I see Boswell Consultants, right? If I go ahead and click on that, boom, all his information is going to put in here, and look, professional fees is going to be filling in my account. And this is why it's called QuickBooks, right? It makes it that much more easier to fill out your information. All you have to do now is fill in the date, the bill number that you got. So again, bill numbers are given on the bill that you receive. And then the amount, okay? This is not going to always be given, but we'll talk about memorizing transactions in chapter 14. Okay? on how to memorize a transaction, and this will make it much more easier so you don't have to type it in all the time. But seeing that by plugging in Boswell Consulting for the very first time, it fills in all the information in regards to Boswell Consulting, such as his address, right? His terms that he gives us, and the expense item that we are being charged for. Okay, it even goes as far as, because he gave us term, it gives us our discount due date, so that reminds us that, hey, it's going to be due, if we do it today, it's going to be due on the 12th, okay, which is 10 days, okay? If not, then the bill is due right here on the 4th, right? So, all right, so if there's no questions on entering in a vendor, let's go ahead and talk about class tracking and job costing, okay? Class tracking is going to be another means to organize your income and your expenses, okay? Now, why do I need to keep furthering organizing my ideas and my transactions? In this case, if you are a business, right, and you have multiple sections in your business, then that's the best way to keep track of your business, right? So in this case, if for any means that you need to, right here, if you have profit centers, different departments, different store locations, okay, even different product lines, you can create a class tracking to be able to keep track of your income and expenses. So a great example in this particular class case study, right? We have 2 store locations. We have a Walnut Creek location and a San Jose location. So by me allowing to divide my income and expenses to particular stores, I can actually measure profitability between which store is actually doing better. Okay, so using class tracking is another essential way to, again, organize your thoughts and ideas, but at the same time, you can run even more reports based on the criteria that you have. So if you choose class tracking to be for a line of department, so if I have line of department, so I have my admin, how much does it cost for me to spend on admin? What if I have a sales team? How much is it going to cost me to spend on my sales team? And so on and so forth. Line of products, right? Let's say I'm like Pepsi Cola, right? We have a chip line, right? We sell chips. But in this case, we'll talk about the soda company or the beverages, right? We sell water. They sell juice. They sell tea. They sell soda. Those are all going to be considered line of business or line of products, right? And I can say, well, I dumped a lot of money in advertising for my soda. But is that enough for the rest of my products that I sell? Do I need to? Because right now my money is primarily in the soda department. So that kind of way that you can use class tracking is another example that you can use to see where your profits are, where your expenses are coming from, and which areas are you generating the most revenue from, okay? Now, how do I turn on class tracking? Well, in this case, that's pretty straightforward. You're going to go to Edit, and it's going to be a preference, okay? And you're going to go up to here. It's going to be under the accounting company preferences. And it's going to be right here, use class tracking. So right now it's already on. Sorry about that, guys. It is already on because, again, we have 2 store locations, San Jose and my Walnut Creek location. Okay, so it's already on and we're already keeping track of it. Okay, So if I go ahead and click OK, so for example, when I do click on my bill, I can choose to designate where this expense is going to be designated to, right? If I drop down this menu, it tells me I have three options. I can choose overhead, which is usually like both businesses, or I could choose my San Jose location or my Walnut Creek location, okay? So again, we skipped over that one section under list. If you have a class list, which I told you is going to be relevant in chapter 4. So for any reason that you need to create that separation, go ahead and use that. Go to list, go to class list, and add those different divisions in your company. Okay, so that is class tracking. All right. And then last but not least, we'll talk really briefly about job costing. Job costing, again, is going to be more predominantly for chapter 2, but you don't really see it as often as chapter 9, okay? What is job costing? Well, job costing could be tailored into 2 different ways. When you look at a job costing, you're looking at how much or what this job entails in regards to not cost itself, but in this case, when we look at job costing, we're looking at what is this job about, okay? How do we separate these jobs? And when we say it's job costing, if you look very carefully, it's job with a colon costing. That tells me, well, this job is gonna be, we're gonna pin these costs to this job. That's what this means, okay? So in this example here, right, if we are buying a custom order for a particular customer, then that is a job that we are doing for that particular customer. So in this case, right, when we talk about job costing, we're going to attach those income, or in this case, not income, but we're going to attach those expenses to our particular customer, okay? So that's job costing, okay? It's saying, well, we have this expense. I'm going to go ahead and bill that customer for that cost. That's job costing. And again, it will be more relevant in chapter 9 when we talk about time and billing. But in this case, you do get to see it a little bit in chapter 4 and chapter 2, but it's not as prevalent as it is in chapter 9 when we actually use job costing for the sole purposes of billing your customers. Okay? And this is where I'm going to stop here today. So we're going to stop, and then when we come back tomorrow, I'll go ahead and we'll resume on page 127, okay? And we'll talk about how you can pay your vendors, okay? Any questions so far?